I am one of those weirdos that have always loved the job search process. And no, it's not because I've interviewed a couple of times and then get a great offer. There have been situations where I've been interviewed 12 times by 12 different companies with no offers, and yet I've still enjoyed it. So what I want to do now is share with you my top 5 tips on how you can not just crush it in your next interview, but every interview. Hi, my name is Shawn Sommerkamp, and this is Motivationeer Christian Coaching. I post 2 videos a week, so please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you can be reminded when I do. Please also consider becoming a member at Motivationeer.com. Your membership really supports this channel. Thank you. I want to start with a couple of quick assumptions, and I've written them out so I can get them right. Assumption 1 is your resume is current and polished. If you want my $1,500 resume template format, just email me, Shawn@motivationeer.com. I share that with everybody. Happy to share it with you. Number 2, the second assumption, your LinkedIn profile matches your resume and your LinkedIn profile is polished, which means you have a great profile photo, a lot of great contacts, a couple of really great written references, and maybe even a few articles that you've written out yourself based on information that you're an expert in. And then finally, the third assumption, you're excited about this job search. Of course, that's key, and I'm going to assume that you are. If you haven't watched it yet, please go watch my video on this channel, How to Avoid Moby Dick Syndrome, where I give you a few tips on how to make sure that you are excited. Okay, so now my 5 tips for how to crush it on your next and every interview is the first one. The first tip is do company research. I say, and this is kind of a little weird way of doing it, I guess, type into Google the name of the company and then controversy. So let's pretend you're interviewing with Slack controversy or Amazon controversy, so that you can kind of get an idea of the worst. And also type into Google search the name of the company and latest news or great highlights or recent news about them. Read through it, get an idea of what's most current, and be mindful of the source of the information. If it's just the company creating a press release, yeah, it's good to know, but it's not going to give you a lot of great inside information. Tip number 2, know exactly what value you bring to the organization. In a previous video I did on this channel, your presence makes a numerical difference. I covered the importance of knowing exactly how much value numerically you bring to any company and all the companies you've brought in the past. That will kind of get you prepared to talk about the value that you can bring to the company now. That is one of the most important things that we can do, is to know the value that we bring from a numerical perspective. Remembering what you're capable of and what the value is that you bring to the organization will then help you with my third tip. Be mindful of what's on your mind. It's kind of a tricky way of saying be confident. Knowing your numbers is going to help you to be confident, but this goes a step further. Knowing what's on your mind is the basis of Ecclesiastes chapter 10, verse 20, which basically says we can't hide what we're thinking about. So be aware of what it is we're telling ourselves before we go into the interview, right up until the time we do go into the interview. If we're saying, yeah, I'm not really cut out for this, or I don't know why I applied to this job, they're not going to want me, whatever. The interviewer is going to read that on your face, is going to see it in your body posture, is going to hear it in the tone of your voice, where your eyes are darting around. You'll give it away. That's the essence of Ecclesiastes 10:20. So be mindful and then remind yourself the value that you bring, which is step number 2, which will help you to be mindful. Step number 4 is to do a power pose right before the interview. If you don't know what this is about, it's based on the Amy Cuddy TED Talk, one of the most watched TED Talks of all times. I mention it a whole lot on this channel and to everywhere I speak because it's so profound. That this woman, Amy Cuddy, did some research on how our body posture affects our mood in the moment, our physiological brain chemistry. And she gives a couple of really great tips on the type of body posture you can do right before an interview, which I'm a big fan of it. I won't kind of spoil it. Please go watch that video if you've not ever seen it before. Amy, just type in Amy Cuddy TED Talk, you'll go right to it. And then finally, the fifth and the most important tip for how to crush it at your next and every interview is pray to God that you find favor in the eyes of the interviewers. You can pray to find favor, that your resume finds favor in the eyes of anyone looking at it. And then before you go into the interview, pray to find favor in the eyes of everybody that you interview with. This is a beautiful way of surrendering our will to God's, acknowledging that He's involved in the process. Where did I get this from? It's a pretty famous story in Nehemiah. We know Nehemiah was cupbearer to the king Artaxerxes I, and he had found out that Ezra, a fellow Jew, had been trying to rebuild the temple for almost 2 decades, and the walls were still not rebuilt yet. When Nehemiah heard about it, he was very discouraged. The king noticed that he had a down look on his face, Ecclesiastes 10:20, and asked him, hey, what's going on? So Nehemiah kind of throws up a prayer, God, please allow me to find favor in the eyes of this king. And then he asks the king for time off, basically, and a letter to kind of accompany him and some, timber to bring with him. Sure enough, and that's in Nehemiah 1:11. We see by the end of the little story here, Nehemiah 2 verse 8, it says, because the gracious hand of my God was upon me, the king granted my request. Now, here's what's cool. There's a passage which I forget now exactly where it's at, but somewhere in the New Testament it says God does immeasurably more than we ask or imagine. Maybe that's in Thessalonians. But this is what happened in this case. Nehemiah wasn't going to ask Artaxerxes for a little detachment of soldiers to go with him, but Artaxerxes volunteered to send army officers and some cavalry with him. On top of giving him all that time off, the written letters saying, I, the king, decree that he can do this, and the lumber to go do it. This is the idea of us praying to find favor in the eyes of the people we're interviewing with. We also see throughout the rest of the Old Testament, multiple times this happens. Ruth finds favor in the eyes of Boaz. You can find that in Ruth chapter 2, verse 2 and verse 10. Hannah found favor in the eyes of Eli. That's 1 Samuel 1:18. Joseph found favor in the eyes of Potiphar. Genesis 39:4. And finally, Esther found favor in the eyes of Xerxes, and that's Esther chapter 7, verse 3. We can fall in love with the job search process. We can fall in love with interviewing, which is one of the most important parts of the job search process. And when we do these 5 tips before going to the interview, we are going to put our best foot forward. It doesn't always mean they're going to select us. Let's leave that to God, and we take on our responsibility of just enjoying the process as we do it. God is going to richly reward us. It's not only going to be fun, we're going to find a career or a new company or new job that we really love. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for 2 new videos each week. Tell me in the comments below about your career situation, and I'll make a video for you with a shout out. You can also become a member at Motivationeer.com. Your career is not just a way to make a living, it's a way to transform the world.